For 2 days, Stormy Daniels took the stand to testify about her alleged affair with Donald Trump. As a candidate and a president, Trump denied he ever had a sexual relationship with her. He called her a con job, said she was washed up, that she had a low IQ, and a liar. But now Trump found guilty on all counts, it appears at least 12 jurors believed her. Joining us now is Stormy Daniels' attorney, Clark Brewster. Stormy Daniels had a tough time on the stand. The question got ugly.
Yeah, I think the cross-examination was pretty aggressive with her, but she dealt with him very openly and directly. I mean, she is a very strong, smart, careful thinking woman, frankly. She's pretty impressive. I've represented her now for 5 years, and I've seen a lot of different, her in a lot of different circumstances.
How's she feeling today?
Well, we talked today. She, the suddenness, actually, of that verdict and how it came down really kind of rocked her last night. She was actually pretty emotional about it when we talked, with feelings of empathy on one hand, but also all the things that he did since that time and condemning her.
Empathy for him?
Yeah, she did.
Empathy for...
And what did she say about him?
She said that the fact that he's convicted really kind of caught her, even although we expected it, off guard. And it was just maybe the realization of the finality and what she's been through hit her as well. But there was a bit of empathy.
I think, Katie's right. She took a lot of harsh questioning, but she's used to people judging her harshly and speaking to her harshly. Her whole life, people who saw the documentary on her know what the perceptions of her are. But I thought it was really interesting what Michael Cohen said about her last night on our air, and I want to play that for you.
Okay.
What do you make of her role in this case?
She's unflappable. It's interesting, people discount her because of her profession. And it really bothered me a lot when it's like, oh, the porn star this, the porn star that. What they were trying to do is to discredit her in the eyes of the jury. In fact, once again, I think it was a very poor decision by Todd Blanche or Susan Neckles, or who they had, because you couldn't have a guy saying that. But they would go out and they would say the same things. I think it was a very poor decision to go after her. People don't know, unless you've read her book, she's actually wickedly smart. I think she graduated valedictorian of her high school class. She's much smarter than they are.
Does she feel vindicated today?
Well, I think the fact that she spent two days on the stand and answered all the questions to allow people to make a decision independently of what she might tell them to think, resulted in her getting credibility and feeling that the truth came out. So, yeah, I would say she feels vindicated.
She said on the stand that if guilty, she wanted him to go to jail. Do you think she still believes that way? Does she still feels
I think
that way?
a lot of the things she said about that stem from the attack upon her that she saw daily. I mean, physical threats, things like that. And the fact that he was so harsh and critical of her appearance and her intellect. And so, that spurred some of that. But I think take that away as person to person. I don't know if she'd say, I want him to go to jail.
We know there's going to be an appeal. We heard Todd Blanche say that already. And of course, in any case like this, you would expect an appeal. But there are a lot of folks who say it will focus, at least in part, on Stormy Daniels' testimony, that it was too graphic, too much was let in. What would you say to that?
Well, there was a point in time, if you were in the courtroom, where Judge Merchan called up the defense and said, why aren't you objecting? And there was 2 or 3 occasions during her testimony without an objection for the defense where he said, sustained. He interposed the objection for
Do you think
that.
they were trying to set up an appeal?
No, you can't appeal on
Something that
matters that you
hasn't
don't preserve record on. So if you don't object and the answer comes in, you don't move to strike even after that, you've waived essentially any appellate.
So why didn't they?
Judge Merchan was surprised. I was actually surprised because some of the answers were, from leading questions, and I thought there were some answers that should have been objected to, or questions that should have been objected to, based upon what my understanding of the rule in limine was on the evidentiary matters before she took the stand. But if you don't object, there's no appeal issue.
Well, in the summation, the prosecutor said Stormy Daniels was the motive. You know, that was the motive. That's what made him want to create this conspiracy that they were alleging. So she was central to it, but did she have doubts about testifying, about playing that public role?
That's a really good question, because I think that's the very reason the prosecution wanted to put her on. You might recall the grand jury returned a grand jury indictment without her testifying, so she had never testified in this matter. And my question is, why do you want to put her on? And I think the prosecution wanted to show how motivated Trump would have been with regard to her tour de force as a witness or as a person. And he called that right.
We have to go, but I do want to ask you, because you mentioned it in the break. Donald Trump will have an opportunity at his sentencing to stand up.
That's
and
right.
In his own defense. What are you looking for, expecting?
So at sentencing, one of the most treasured, protected rights a defendant has is what they call the allocution. It's where you stand before the judge and say, Judge, what I've done is wrong. I understand, and goes and tells the court why punishment shouldn't be as harsh as the court might otherwise do. His mantra this far is to condemn and attack and insult. I don't think that'll work well in the allocution, so we'll see what happens.
Clark Brewster, thank you.
My
It's
pleasure.
fascinating. We do appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you so much, Scott.